All right. Hello, and welcome back to the Life with Old Dogs podcast. Um, first of all, I want to point out this lovely, lovely artwork that my beautiful and creative daughter-in-law, Brooke, did. She lives out in Washington with my son and beautiful granddaughters, and this is a diamond dot painting back here, and she did that for me for my Christmas gift. So I told her I was going to put it in the Life with Old Dogs podcast studio, and there it is. Gorgeous, right? And so appropriate. So thank you, Brooke. I absolutely love it. All right. So I want to recap 2023 before moving forward with 2024. And you may hear some noise in the background because I have Savvy and Brutus right beside me. Um, I have Caesar and Sasha running around the house just being silly, and little teeny tiny puppy. If you've been following along, he's about 7 weeks old now. He is right on the floor here in front of me playing with some lovies, and you may hear some commotion. The other thing is it's only 9 degrees outside right now, and we really haven't been able to be outside a whole lot today because it's the type of day that the weather hurts our faces. So there's that. All right. So recapping 2023, you can see me looking over here because I have sheet of notes about that big. So 2023 was a slow progression and an interesting year to say the least. We've still been dealing with the aftermath of the pandemic where we really haven't been able to recruit new volunteers. I actually haven't been trying to recruit new volunteers. We had a wonderful, wonderful volunteer base prior to COVID, but then with COVID, there were definitely some life changes for longtime volunteers of ours, and they're not able to volunteer anymore. And we miss them. We really do. Um, we've had some other volunteers that came on for, with good intentions, but it really wasn't a good fit for the sanctuary. And we opted not to move forward with them in volunteering. So that was an interesting scenario. It's happened now a couple of times throughout the history of Woody's Place where people come on with good intentions and then it's quickly discovered that maybe their intentions aren't quite what they led us to believe. And a previous board member said to me, very wise and knowledgeable board member said, you can fire volunteers. And I guess I needed to hear that because I'm always the type of person, if someone wants to help, I think that's great. And let's incorporate them somehow. But sometimes there are people who come forward who truly just are not a good fit and really kind of lower morale for others. So, so that's kind of what's happening there. Um, I also had an event coordinator for about 5 years who I was really hoping at some point would be able to take the physical fundraising events that we do here locally by the hand and just be able to do them herself. But that never came to fruition. Um, I guess she just wasn't confident enough. So I brought in another event coordinator, only to find that she was creating her own organization unbeknownst to me, and basically took our major organizations for new organization's own, and basically did those events in the exact same locations at the exact same time of year, and even took our vendors for these events and called it something different. So it was very deceitful, and I just kind of just pulled back. Like I'm just, to the point now where it's like I just don't even know if I can move forward with volunteers because I've just been really kind of reeling from some pretty underhanded situations that have happened in the last year or so. So that's been happening. Moving forward in 2024, I want to hire somebody. I want to hire somebody to help with fundraising, and I want to hire somebody to help with the physical care of the dogs because I'm just not looking to do it all myself anymore. It's a lot for me. It's a lot for Mr. Woody's Place. Keep in mind we do work. Mr. Woody's Place drives 2 hours one way just to work every day, 5 days a week. So that's a lot. And I run the Shepherd Shop and the podcast and the newsletter, and I do pet grief counseling as well, and some canine nutrition consulting. So there's a lot of irons in the fire for me, and I really would love to be able to bring in enough money that I can hire somebody to help move Woody's Place forward. Um, Paying somebody is a little bit it's a little bit different than people volunteering. People volunteer when they can, and if it suits them. People, when you actually pay somebody and it's a paying position, then they want to show up for work because they want to help, but they also need the paycheck. So it's a little different. So in the meantime, I'm trying to figure out like buffers, um, if you will, to vet people for those positions to make sure that they are in fact a good fit for what I'm looking for. So that'll be moving on in the future. Um, there's been some personal challenges on my end as well in 2023. Seems like there has been since COVID. I still struggle on and off with Lyme disease issues. It's now 4 years that I continually keep testing positive. Definitely feel it this time of year with my hands hurting, my back hurts. And then, I go through the course of antibiotics. I feel a little bit better. I try to treat myself homeopathically as well. I see an infectious disease doctor, and I'm still in the same boat 4 years later. So there's that. There's been some issues with my parents as well. They're elderly, and they recently sold their house here in this area, which, I ended up doing like a majority of the work to get that house ready for sale, like me, myself, and I, clearing it out and working with the realtor and all that stuff, and then getting them as situated as possible where they are now. So that took up probably about half the year last year and then some. There were some other challenges within my personal family last year that needed my undivided attention. And as much as I love Woody's Place and Life with Old Dogs, my family comes first. And if I can help in any way, if they need me for something, I'm definitely there for them. So there were some things there going on. Um, all right, we said goodbye to some residents last year, four altogether, two long-term residents, Brandy and Atticus. Both were with us for 5 years. Both came to us in 2018, one in January and the other in December. Brandy was 15 when she passed. Atticus was 14 when he passed, and it was just very sad. Like we really felt that. We really felt that. I mean, we feel the passing of every resident, but when you have a resident that's with you for 5 years or us for 5 years, we feel that more because we develop more of a connection and a bond with them. We said goodbye to Nona as well, and Sheriff. Sheriff was in the beginning of 2023. He was not with us for very long. Unfortunately, he was not well when he got here. He was not well, and we tried to do different things to improve his physical well-being, but at the end of the day, it was just he was done, and that was it. So he got to spend a few months here with us. He enjoyed himself. We didn't really ever get to make that connection with him because he wasn't here that long, but we were glad to be able to help him. Nona, on the other hand, was with us for a few years, and we called her, we affectionately referred to her as Nutty Nona. She definitely had some behavioral issues, but we were able to work with them, and she was as compliant as could be. Her issues were always with other residents here, and there were particular residents that it was like oil and water with her, like Prince was one of them. And we constantly were doing this dance around the two of those to make sure that, fights didn't break out because they did. But in the end, she ended up succumbing to anaplasmosis and Lyme that I didn't know she had until the day she died. Um, Actually, I knew she had anaplasm. Yeah, no, it was that day I found out, and her organs were shutting down. She was the master of disguise. I've never seen anything like that before in my life, where she was, we've had others with anaplasmosis and Lyme, and they've had symptoms, and we've treated them for it. She had no symptoms, none whatsoever. She was eating, pooping, peeing, drinking, running around playing, chasing after her ball, being defensive of her ball right until the last day. And then boom, like she just checked out. Like that was it. And that was something akin to like a traumatic loss, like I'm sorry, traumatic grief, where there's no, like, you don't see it coming like you do anticipatory grief, and you can kind of like build yourself up like, okay, I know this is coming. I see it coming. Savvy's not doing well right now. Savvy has, some health issues right now, and I can see she's declining despite our best efforts to keep her going and our veterinary's best efforts to keep her going. She is 13 plus, and she's just, she's coming to an end. So I can see that. I'm very sad. I'm very anxious about it, but I'm preparing myself. But Nona was just boom. That was it. It's like something like somebody, a loved one being hit by a car or having a heart attack. Like it's that kind of grief. Like you're just shocked. And then you have the grief as well. So Nona was, it was her personality, really. That's how she was. She was like bigger than life, really, while she was here. She was always front and center. She was always, we always were kind of handling her with kid gloves with her issues, but we loved her. And then just bam, checked out. So I'm saying all this because if you think about it, if you have dogs, it's a lot to say goodbye to your dog. Like when it's time, it's a lot to say goodbye. Well, that's four for us in 1 year. And although we do Woody's Place Senior German Shepherd Sanctuary, Mr. Woody's Place, and I, and Life with Old Dogs, it's still not easy. It's still like to say goodbye. It's just not. And, I hear that all the time. How do you handle it? How do you handle it? Or someone says, you should have been a nurse, a hospice nurse, because you do this all the time. It's like, well, I guess that's like an offhanded compliment, but I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel well. I get upset. I cry. I question myself. What else could I have done? But at the end of the day, I understand we're taking older German shepherds and life is a process for them as well as us, and that at some point we're going to say goodbye. But I still get sad. Make no mistake about it. And then, of course, there's people like I've literally posted the death of a dog one day, and just that day, there's people tagging me to stuff on Facebook. Oh, save this dog, save that dog. I'm like, what? We just said goodbye to Brandy for 5 years. Like, I'm not rushing out and saving another right this second, right now. Can you just give me a little time to process what happened here? So I just yeah, that kind of bothers me a little bit. I get that some people don't know, but I'm trying to think of who it was. I want to say it was Nona. Somebody literally tagged me to another dog in need on the post that I made about her passing away that day, like hours before. And I almost wanted to react to them and say, you are just, that is so tacky. Like, please just give me a little time to grieve the passing here before I will take another. I will. And I realize that there are so many dogs that need saving, but I also understand the importance of saying no, which so many other rescuers seem to have trouble with. I understand the importance of saying no. If it's not good for me, if it's not good for the other residents, I'm saying no. Uh, so anyway, that's a whole different podcast episode. So we said goodbye to those four residents. We did welcome in one new resident last year. That was Caesar. He came to us from the Ocean County SPCA, I believe, in New Jersey, same place Brutus came from. He came in with some masses we had to have addressed. He needed to be neutered. He's a great boy all around. I think his person was an elderly person who couldn't care for him anymore. And then their adult child drove him to the shelter and, you know, got rid of him basically. But He is such a good boy. You can tell whoever had him truly took the time to train him well. He's well adjusted to all the dogs, the cats. He's adjusted to most people, but he does have some issues with men upon meeting them. Um, he is, you can just see his ears go back. He's bum rushing. I'm not really sure, it's not something that he's excited about. This is like I'm could potentially be aggressive here. So I need to keep an eye on him and make sure he's introduced to men that he doesn't know properly. The other thing is he's very, very protective of me. So I don't know if he had, a woman in his life before or whatever, but he will literally stand sideways in front of me, literally protecting me if he feels like he needs to. Um, and it's cute, but kind of annoying too. But I appreciate his efforts. I really do. So Caesar's a great boy, and we're glad to have him. Um, then at the end of the year, there was the whole hoarding situation further up north. I am forever sorry I ever answered that plea for help. I went above and beyond to try to help her, this woman, with the 57 German Shepherds. And I tried to help the county official, people who reached out to ask me to help her. I did tons of footwork for this woman, only to be met with deceit and lies and the county official handling her with a quote kid gloves, because he knew her daughter or whatever. I don't even know, but he knew them somehow. So it was just a big waste of my time. Except for I was able to get some of the German shepherds rehomed, and out of that horrible situation. And excuse me, I was able to get Tawny, one of the pregnant German shepherds. I have a dog hair on my face, from that situation before she gave birth. So I got her, and then I took her to a rescue that specializes in pregnant dogs, literally just about 2, 3 miles up the mountain from me here. And they took her, and she gave birth to 13 puppies on December 1st. Unfortunately, three died. I did learn through the grapevine that Tawny had another litter of puppies that was a large litter, I want to say at the beginning of last year. So Tawny was just tired. So she had a couple of teats not working. She was one teat short, and some of the puppies died. I think she laid on them. And then the others needed a lot of supplementing, a lot of supplementation with milk replacement and extra care. And it's pretty overwhelming. And the other rescue that she's at also has other dogs available for adoption in their care. So I've been doing what I can to help offset the cost of that and help wherever I can. Then on December 3rd, I was up there and one of the puppies wasn't doing very well. So I took that puppy. I'm sure you've seen it on social media, but he was near death. He probably was just less than a day away from death. His tongue was white, his gums were white, he was very lethargic. Turns out he had a bacteria infection that he needed assistance with. He had worms, a heavy caseload of worms, so he was on Panacure for like 7 days, and it was round the clock feeding for this little boy, like up until last week. So it's been 2 weeks today that he's been with us, Mr. Woody's place and I, and he's up and he's about and he's got a big old belly and he's doing well, and he's catching up to the lower end of his litter that his siblings, like they range, like some are big and hefty and some are middle of the road, and then a couple are kind of on the smaller end, and he's still on the smaller end, but at least he's within that realm now. So he's been staying here with me, Mr. Woody's place, in the residence, and he has been loving his time here, especially with Sasha and Caesar. And it's been very good for Sasha to have a little playmate. but he will be available for adoption in about 2 more weeks. So when he's about 8, 9 weeks, he'll be ready for adoption. I will have an application that's going to go out. There will be, yeah, whoever gets approved, he's, going to have to jump through some rings. That's for sure. And there will be an adoption fee for him for all the puppies in that litter. It's going to be a $500 adoption fee per puppy. They are German shepherds. They're German shepherds. We will not be able to get any AKC paperwork on them, but they are 100% German shepherds. That's number one. Number two, we have put in a lot of time, effort, and money into helping this litter, and we've checked prices out online. And I'm not even going to negotiate. It's $500 because we put a lot into this. $500 per puppy. So he will be available again next week. All right. So I have Savvy here. She's beside me. Savvy unfortunately has a mass on her spleen or in her spleen. I have had it aspirated. Um, there are some very questionable cells, cluster cells there. So I'm hoping it's not hemangiocarcinoma, but it may be. I'm not having it biopsied again. She turned 13 last August. Um, if anyone has had experience with hemangiocarcinoma, you know, there's not a whole lot you can do, especially for a geriatric dog. So we are doing our best to make sure she is as comfortable as possible and pain-free as possible for as long as we can. But I can say that the mass is it's growing. It's like grown since we were up there less than 2 weeks ago, and it's grown since then. So um, it is a sad but very real part of life with old dogs, and it makes me sad. We love Savvy. We adore Savvy. And it just makes me very sad to know that this is probably going to be her demise. But know that we are keeping her very comfortable. Right now, she's beside me. I keep looking down because she's right here. She's on her big Barker dog bed with her heating pad with a beautiful Sherpa blanket on top of that. She's all tucked in. She had exactly what she wanted for breakfast. It's typically turkey. She loves turkey. At this point, I pretty much just give them what they want and make them happy. That's really what it comes down to. Some might be like, well, you have to make sure she's getting a nutritionally balanced meal and stuff like that. And I get that and I appreciate that. But when we're talking about a dog who maybe has a month left, does it really matter? I don't think so. I just don't think so. I mean, I try to make sure she's getting a nutritionally balanced meal, but if her stomach is upset because of what's going on inside of her and all I can get into her is turkey, I'm going to give her turkey. That's it. And I would implore you, if you are in a situation like this, to do the same thing. And I'm sure people are just recoiling and cringing right now. But look, I've been doing this for a very long time. And when their end is in sight, like I said, days, weeks, or maybe a few weeks left, it doesn't matter at that point. Just make sure that they're happy. Make sure that they're happy and that they're getting something of nutritional value in their stomach. Okay, that's how I feel about that. You can agree to disagree. That's fine, but that's what I do. All right. Now moving forward to the new year. So a newsletter went out last week. Our first newsletter went out last week, and I announced that we will be relocating to Wyoming. And I was met with some responses. Some people were absolutely thrilled. Some people live out there. They can't wait for us to get out there and come and see the dogs and be a part of things and whatnot. And others had some questions and concerns. Um, let me just say right off the bat, this this was not a decision made in haste. Anyone who knows me knows I have been talking about this for years now. Not a year, not 2 years, years. Okay? I have literally been researching moving out west since 2004, folks. That is 1 year before I even started rescuing dogs because I started rescuing dogs for another rescue in 2005. I have literally been talking about it that long. But for the last half a decade now. I have literally been flying out once or twice a year, going to different locations to see if it is viable for us or not. I have been going everywhere from Arizona to New Mexico, to Utah, to Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington. Like, I've been around out there now to the states that I've been considering, and it really did come down to Wyoming. Now, yes, I know it's remote. Yes, I know it's cold. Yes, I know it's windy. Yes, I know they get snow. We get a lot of that here, not as cold, and not as windy, but I'm looking at a bunch of snow right now. We just had 10 inches last month, or last week. So it's not like I'm moving from Palm Springs, Florida to Wyoming. Like, I'm moving from northeastern PA to Wyoming. And we are looking for a not so isolated part. Right now, we're in a rural area. So we're used to rural. I mean, it takes us about 30, 35 minutes to get to, what I call civilization, where all the big box stores are and hospitals and all that stuff. So we're looking to stay in the same proximity out there. Now, this is not something that's going to happen overnight. I'm looking for land now. I started right after Christmas looking for land. I know what we want. Um, and it's, going to take us a little while to find that. Once we nail that down, or I should say, as I'm nailing that down, I'm also having plans, better plans drawn for a building for Woody's Place. So, Woody's Place is going to look a little different, a lot different, actually, moving forward than what it's been. So this is our transition year, a transition couple of years, I should say. I moving forward, I need a little bit of separation between dogs and my personal life because it's all together right now. Everything's all together right now, and it always has been. And I'm to the point where some days the some days my house is not my sanctuary. And I've been in rescue long enough to see that when people, very well-intended people who rescue, do not have any peace in their life because they're constantly rescuing, constantly doing, constantly cleaning, constantly feeding, cannot walk around without, dogs just being all over the place or animals all over the place. They're really pretty cranky. They're really pretty cranky people. They're very keyed up and there's a lot of emotional dysregulation in their life. And I feel like that's what's been happening to me. So I've come up with a solution. Woody's Place is going to be a building. It is going to be a building because I want a designated grooming area, like full-fledged grooming area, and I want a hydrotherapy area for our dogs, and I want like one all-purpose area for the dogs, but like home-like environment. But I also want separate area for, let's say, we get a dog that was similar to Nona that doesn't really get along with all the other dogs. I need to be able to have space for that dog to be with us, but then to be on their own when they are overwhelmed and anxious instead of just thrown into the mix and they don't have anywhere to go. So I need that. I need designated outdoor areas. Unlike what I have here, my dog yard. The dog yard is literally right next to where my goats and chickens and ducks are, and I'm sure my neighbors just hate me here because they hear dogs barking and stuff like that. Um, I have neighbors right around me. I mean, even though we're in a rural area, we have like a cluster of homes here, and I need to not be next to neighbors because I want to be a good neighbor. I don't want my neighbors annoyed because, Caesar's barking at ducks, 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want to be a good neighbor and I need space to do that. Um, so the other thing is Mr. Woody's Place and I are planning a living space inside this building where it's like maybe just like a condominium or something inside this building where we will be on site and we will be present, but that will be our space. And if we want to have the dogs in there, we can have the dogs in there. But when we have company over, let's say, dogs can go back to the other side, we can see them, we can interact with them, but we can also eat in peace or enjoy our company um, because that's really what's happening now at this, juncture in the sanctuary journey. Like there's just no division there. And sometimes it's really a juggling act, and I get completely stressed and anxious, when we have family and friends over and they have little kids, and I'm always worried and wondering, oh my God, I got to make sure nobody, none of the dogs bite any of these little kids, or, the little kid doesn't trip over one of the dogs, or, some little kid's not feeding one of the dogs something they shouldn't have. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. I just don't. So this is the plan we've come up with. Um, and again, we are having plans drawn up. We're going to sell this place. We're using using a lot of our own money, actually, but donations capital campaign will have to take place to afford a better Woody's place. Hydrotherapy is not cheap. But so anyway, we are also planning on figuring out income streams right now. So how are we going to maintain Woody's place? Well, donations are great, but donations have been it's been hard. I mean, there have been two rescues that I know of that have closed in the last 6 months. One was in southeastern PA, around for decades. They closed their doors. Not enough donation money, not enough volunteers, no fosters. Bright Star German Shepherd Rescue, been around for like 30 years. They're in Rochester, New York. Hands on, extremely active, saved a gajillion German Shepherds over the years. They closed their doors just last week, I believe, citing the same thing. Hardly any donations, hardly any fosters, hardly any volunteers, and they're just tired of doing it all themselves. It was just like a knife to the heart. It really was. And I've been thinking about this for a while now. And another one in Arizona had a building that they were keeping their rescue dogs in, and they had to downsize because, again, not enough donation money, and they had to close that building and kind of disperse animals amongst people who are willing to take them within that organization. So the struggle is real right now. It is just incredibly real right now, and it's very scary. It really is, because these dogs just keep coming. They keep coming all around the country. They just keep coming. I mean, I dread looking at my emails and inboxes some days because I just get so upset when I see the faces of these older German shepherds just with this horribly scared look on their face, sensing that their demise is near, and I want to help, but I don't have the space or the capacity to. So the building's going to be bigger. It's going to be geared much toward Woody's place, with Mr. Woody's place and I having a smaller living space. So we will basically be there being the caretakers. So how are we funding it? That grooming station, I'm going to make that public to folks who need to use it. It's going to be like a self-wash grooming station. So I'm going to open that to the public. So we will use it for Woody's place, but when we're not using it, we will let others in the area use it and pay us for that service. The hydrotherapy, same deal. It's going to be primarily for the Woody's Place residents, but if anybody needs to use it for their dog and has, their treatment plan, and somebody that can come in with them, they'll be more than welcome to pay us for that service. And lastly, we're going to have boarding. We are going to offer boarding. It's primarily going to be toward older dogs, disabled dogs, but we're not that's not going to be exclusive. It is going to be available for other dogs as well. So that's how we plan on funding, keeping Woody's Place afloat. Again, we do need donations. There's no doubt about it. It is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization, but I see the writing on the wall with donations and how they're just, they're lacking. And again, volunteers and not being able to do physical fundraising events. Like I can't do it. I can't do it all. And I'm going to go do one at Tractor Supply 2 weekends from now, but I don't have anything else scheduled because every time I kill myself to go to an event, like to plan an event, takes time. To get ready for an event takes time. To do the event takes time. To break down from the event, come home, unpack takes time. And all that time, I'm not with the residents here who need me. So I'm just not doing it. If I don't have volunteers that are good volunteers that can help, I'm not doing it. So instead of closing our doors, we are looking for ways to fund the sanctuary on a different level. And we talked about it. We think they are really good ideas to fund the sanctuary, the new sanctuary. Uh, Okay. And also, somebody mentioned, well, you're going to be even more isolated out there. How many older German Shepherds do you really think you're going to find out there? Well, we take dogs from all over the United States now, and they find their way to us here in the Poconos. And it's pretty rural here. So there is a thing called transport, right? There's volunteer transport, there's paid transport, even truck drivers, over the road truck drivers. There's a group of them that do transport. There's even pilots who transport. There's no problem with transport. There is a huge, huge 1,000-acre sanctuary out in, uh, it's like, it's maybe like central Wyoming. It's called Kindness Ranch, and they've been at it for a long time. They primarily do beagles, but they take other animals too. And guess what? They get the beagles from these labs and all sorts of horrible situations, and they get them there. So that's not a factor. That's not a factor. Um, so Wyoming is definitely a personal choice, but it is also, for the dogs as well. So I know we have UPenn here who does a lot with research and up and coming veterinary practices for dogs. And we also have Cornell, that's a few hours away, that's top notch. But Colorado also has a lot in the veterinary world that is typically cutting edge and stuff like that. And we do plan on hovering closer to Colorado to utilize those practices and universities. The other thing is, guess what? Lyme is not a huge issue out there. Lyme anaplasmosis, like we are constantly in a hot spot here. The only way I'm going to ever prevent Lyme and anaplasmosis and babiosis and any sort of tick-borne illness for myself and the residents is if we go out in full hazmat suits. Because believe me, when I walk out that door with the residents, everybody's all sprayed, right? Got everybody all sprayed down. Got a big old hat on my head. I got pants on. My pants are tucked into my boots. Come inside the door. I got a lint roller right there beside the door. Everybody gets lint rolled, so I make sure like nothing's on us. I try to do everything I can, but folks, when I tell you in the spring, we have ticks on our walls, walking up the walls. I have gone to bed with no ticks on me, only to wake up with one embedded in my thigh because it was in the bed with me. So they don't really have that issue out there. And I'm signing myself up for that because I've gotten to the point now where I pretty much have PTSD from tick issues. I really do. Like I cannot relax because I'm always afraid. Like this time of year I can relax because there's snow on the ground and it's so cold, but the rest of the year I am just so keyed up and I'm obsessed with it because I've been plagued with it for so long, and so have the dogs here. Yes, you can get the Lyme vaccine, but the thing is, when you're in an area like us, you're going to get Lyme anyway. Most likely, it may lessen the symptoms. I'm talking about for the dogs. It may lessen the symptoms, but they're still going to get it, and it does absolutely nothing for anaplasmosis or babiosis. Nothing. So I'm over it. We've talked about it, and that is what's happening. So follow along for that journey. You'll see. I'm hoping to have um, the full blueprints in and out of the building by mid-February. So that's what I'm hoping for. Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry because somebody did ask about this. It's not going to happen right away, but within like our 5-year plan, we do plan on having small cabins on the new property of the new Woody's place for people to rent. So they can come, they can experience Woody's place, they can travel around Wyoming and they can stay there. And we also do plan on having experiential therapy for people with PTSD, CPTSD, primarily veterans, but whoever may need it because There are definitely programs out there like equine therapy. Well, not everybody's into horses. Some people are into German shepherds, so we're going to offer that as well. Yeah, so a lot. There's going to be a lot going on there, but it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to helping more dogs. We're going to be able to help more at one time, and I'm just super super excited about this. And it's taken us a while to get here. It's taken a lot of conversation, a lot of like knocking knees, like, whoa, I kind of want to do this. Do you want to do this? And do we really want to move out of state? And yeah, we do. Okay, so I talked about the details of the building, the rescue's closing, and the transition year. So, all right, that's pretty much it. I've gone on long enough. We will start producing more podcast Life with Old Dogs podcast episodes here. I kind of dropped the ball at the end of the last part of 2023. We had guests lined up to talk about treating your older German Shepherd for allergies as holistically as possible. And I literally had to cancel those because of all the groundwork I was doing for that hoarding situation. So I apologize, but we will get back to it. And I'm excited to share that information with you. And another thing that's coming very soon is our very own senior dog journal. That is in the works right now. And I'm so excited to bring that forward to everybody. So basically, it's if you have an older dog and you have to keep track of things, right, when you have an older dog, about their medication, when they took it, symptoms they may have, keeping track of their weight, all that stuff. And this senior dog journal is going to be the ticket for that, and it's really cool looking too, so I think you're going to like it. But all right, folks, so that is it for now, and until next time, which I hope is soon, be well.